Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, I told you regarding the poverty line, and that poverty line, there are different states. If you check the poverty, different states they have reduced the poverty in a different way. Some states they are still above the national average poverty line. What is the national average poverty line? Anyone? In a
22%.
22 percentage. So few states are there, they are far above the poverty line national average, or they are still like they have to take a lot of measures so that they can reduce the poverty. Another two states I told they have improved, that is especially in Tamil Nadu and West Bengal. Okay, now next we are talking about Atul. First time you are coming to class, Atul?
No, ma'am.
No, you have
I
come
missed.
before.
I
Okay.
missed out two or three classes.
Only two, three classes. Everywhere it's absent for you.
No, ma'am. I joined. I think halfway middle of the class. All the class. Like, I have network problems.
Ah. Okay.
Ma'am, you told about seminar.
Yeah, yeah. That is why only for seminar you will come.
No, ma'am. I just said I have prepared that PPT.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. So I will be giving everyday seminar to you. That's better. So it's an incentive for you to come, right?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll just take a little bit portion. After that, I will we will start the seminar. Okay. Okay. So here now next we are seeing poor people, they are deprived of what all things. Deprived of means what now? What do you mean by deprived of? They are not able to get, or they are not able to access many things in their life. In that few things what they have given, that is quality education. They are not able to they are not able to get some training in the skills which brings them good income. That is not there. Good health care facilities, all these things they are deprived of. They are not able to get these things in their life. Another one thing you can see, they are victims of caste, religious and other discriminatory practices, because you might have heard that there were some caste discrimination before, on the basis of religion also some discrimination were there before. So they were victims of that. They were suffering some sort of discriminatory practices in the society. Now why they were facing these discriminatory practices? There are various reasons for that. There were inequality in the society. All are not considered as equals in the society. Because of that reason, they faced this kind of discrimination. That is one point. Another one is a social exclusion. What do you mean by social exclusion? Exclusion means what? Can anyone think of the meaning of exclusion?
Being
Yeah.
avoided.
Yeah, being avoided. They are excluded. They are not included in the society, or they are not included in the mainstream. Whenever they come, they are excluded, or they are not considered as a part of society. So there is another reason why they faced this kind of discrimination. Another one, unemployment. Unemployment in the sense they are not having any employment, they are not earning any income, so they face discrimination. You know that if people are not having money, wherever they go, they don't get any preference at all. You can think of that anywhere. If you go, if a person is coming well dressed, well mannered, or with all coat suit and all, we always will try to give some preference. At the same time, one person is coming with torn clothes and all, we may not we may not ask him only what do you want, like that. So that kind of discrimination you can see in the society. Another one, indebtedness in the sense the people, they do, when they don't have money, they start borrowing, and when they are not able to pay back the money, we say that they are caught in debtness, or they are caught in indebtedness. So too much of borrowing and they don't have money with them to pay back. That is one thing. Another one, unequal distribution of wealth. Wealth is not at all distributed equally. Some are very rich, some owns large acres of land, some of them they have property, some of them have buildings in their name, but at the same time on one side if you see the people there are where they don't have even a cent of land in their name. So like that unequal distribution of wealth is there in our country. These are all the discrimination what a poor person is facing in the society. Okay, so poor people, what all things they are deprived of? Actually they are deprived of quality education. They are not getting quality education. Another one, skills. They don't have much skills here so that they can improve in their particular life. That is not there. Another one, healthcare facilities. Whatever healthcare facilities are there, that is not available. The people are not able to get that because they don't have money. So this is one thing. Another one, they are victims of discrimination. Why they are becoming these victims of discrimination? Because of social. In society nobody is considered as equal. Economic wise if you see, some are very rich, some are very poor, like that inequality is there. Political level in our country all are considered as equals because everyone has a right to vote. So that kind of inequality is not there in our country, but like these areas they face inequality. Another one, social exclusion. I told that they are excluded from the society. They are not included as a mainstream of the society. Why they are excluded? Maybe because they belong to a particular caste or they belong to a low status or anything. By saying this, they are excluded from the society. Unemployment, indebtedness and unequal distribution of wealth. These are all considered as the reasons for the discriminatory practices in the society. Now next one, these are some of the causes of poverty in India. There are various causes, but on the basis of this they have not given much explanation in your textbook. Only 2-3 things they have given explanation in your textbook, so learn only that. Okay, one reason is population explosion. Population explosion in the sense what? What is population explosion? Grishma, can you tell? What is that? Louder. Population explosion. Large number of people, especially if you take the case of India. The number of people who are living in our country is very high. Okay, so because of that reason we say that population explosion, population is too high. Because of that reason the poverty also increases. Limited resources in the sense, according to the population, if you see the resources, it is very limited. Resources are limited, because of that we are not able to provide resources to everyone. Colonial past. Colonial past, what are they talking about? Karthik, what is colonial past?
Ma'am, the Britishers ruled
Yeah, the
and looted
Britishers,
us.
yeah, they ruled here, they looted us, they took a lot of money from us, and they mainly used for their own improvement, for their country's improvement. Another one, lack of education, literacy. These are the important points you can see related to the causes of poverty. Now first one, we are talking about British rule and poverty. With the British rule, what happened to India, or what were the main drawbacks of British rule? That's what they have given here. Now if you think of British rule, what do you feel? It has a positive impact or a negative impact on our economy? What do you feel?
Negative.
Negative impact. Okay, but there are some positive impact, but if you see all together, a lot of negative impact were there when they ruled our country. Now what are those negative impacts? The first one, you can see the policy of deindustrialization. You have studied about deindustrialization, yes? Pavitra, can you tell what is this deindustrialization? Can you tell? Pavitra,
Yes, ma'am.
what is deindustrialization? What do you mean by that? What happened? That means something happened to industries. What happened to our Indian industries when the Britishers were ruling here? Can you think of? Some changes happened. What happened? Do you know, Pavitra? No. What about Hanna? Can you tell? Hanna? Something happened or what with this Britishers when they came to India? What happened to our Indian industries?
They controlled all industry.
They
controlled all industry.
what happened? It's not clear what you're telling.
They controlled all.
They controlled, that's what you're telling. They controlled actually, but something happened to Indian industries. Elvina, can you tell?
Mainly they use the raw materials as an exporter, so that the British industries would be even more expanded.
Okay, one point what she is telling, that raw materials all they whatever we produce, that was taken by them, and they started producing the finished goods and they imported here and we started buying that. That is one thing. Okay, so cotton clothes whatever were there, cotton clothes, the finished one they produced and they exported to our country. In the sense they Indian British in India, whoever Britishers were there, they brought the finished products from Britain so that they can sell the finished products in our country. So they are able to earn money. When the raw materials, if you see, they took the raw materials at a very low price. It was very cheaper for them and they took it at a low price, and you know that when there is no price, what will happen to the income of the people. Okay, so this is one thing. Another one thing you can see related to agriculture. During those days also, 70% of the people, they were engaged in agriculture. Now agriculture also a lot of changes happened. Aparna, can you tell one example what happened in the field of agriculture? Any one point?
Ma'am, land holdings were consolidated.
No, Britishers' time I'm asking. Britishers, they were not consolidating. What happened to the production of what we get from the land? There was a change in that. They started producing kind of crops they started producing rather than
rather than food crops.
Rather than food crops. Food grains were produced, but at the same time, Britishers, they gave importance to cash crops because they wanted for the further production. For that purpose, they made the Indian farmers to do the cash crop cultivation. At the same time, food grains also we produced. What happened to that? Food grains they used to export to Britain. So what happened when India had a famine? You might have heard about Bengal famine. So during that famine in India, food grains were not available because a lot of food grains were taken to Britain. So food grains were not available to our people, or a lot of food grains they took it. And one more thing, in India, when we say British government, first British government were not ruling. Who was ruling from Britain? That was it British government ruling before?
The king or the king.
No, before that, before taking, Queen were there actually on the throne. So she took the power. Before that, who was there? It was not British government directly. Who came and established here? You might have studied.
East India Company.
Yes, very good. East India Company was there before. It was just a company. Okay, and they took a lot of loan from British government, and because when they are coming here, they have to spend a lot of money. So what they did to pay off their debt, they started increasing the taxes. They started collecting lot of things from India so that they can pay their debt towards the British government. Okay, then later on only you can see that East India Company is going and the British government is taking over. That is especially after the revolt of 1857 and all. And the people were very angry because just before the revolt of 1857, you might have heard that there were rulers, small rulers were there. All their lands were taken under custody in some or the other name. I mean, sometimes they say that there is no hereditary ruler. Sometimes they say that some sort of alliances they will be bringing, some sort of policies they will be bringing, and they took all these lands under their control. Okay, so all these things, the people, they were very angry. Rulers were very angry. That is why you can see revolt of 1857. So here, if you see the matter of agriculture also, they used to take food grains from our country. At the same time, they made the people to cultivate cash crops rather than food grains here. So that is another point you can see. Revenue system in the sense, mainly we are talking about the tax system. They used to collect lot of taxes from the people. They want money only. They want their debt to be solved, their country to be flourished and prospered. Another one, you can see that India's resources that was looted and taken, you can say, and all these things they started to use as a source of raw material here, and they sold their finished products in our country. So one main reason for the poverty is what? What is the one main reason they have given here? Yes? That is? Now till now I told about whom? The rule of
away India's resources.
Yeah, the rule of British is one important reason for the poverty in our country, or the colonial rule is one important reason for the poverty in our country. Now, after independence, if you see agriculture, what they did, you have studied that there was consolidation of land limit ceiling, land ceiling was there. So what the government did, what do you mean by land ceiling? I told you this before, I think. What is land ceiling?
Each person can only
own this much
fixed
amount of land only. Okay, for example, you can see in our country it is kept something like that 5 to 15 acres of land. In between that, according to the number of the family members, we can own the property. 5 acres one person can own. Now if more members are there, it depends upon the family, how much we can own. So 5 to 15 acres of land we can own here, but you can see more than that people are having in their name. Sometimes they have in their name their family members' name, like that you can see. So some states, they seriously adopted this. That means whoever is having more than that particular land, for example, if 15 acres is the limit, what they did, more than that, whatever land is there, that is taken from a person and distributed to whom? It is given to
farmers.
Landless farmers or landless laborers were there, it was given to them. And you can see that, so that means all of them got small plots of land. But here also there is a problem. Because of small plots of land, the people were not able to do a proper cultivation with the help of modern farming methods or modern machines and all. Okay, so there is one problem you can see in India. But another one thing, maybe in some states only followed this, some states they didn't follow this practice, in the sense they didn't follow that particular land ceiling act and all, and they kept that land in their own name. They never gave their land to government, and government could not distribute that to the poor farmers. So in Kerala, if you see, this land was implemented properly, but few states, only 1 or 2 states, they have implemented this properly. Other states, they did not follow this. That is one thing. Another one, heavy pressure of population. Heavy pressure of population in the sense, you know that in our country, population is very high. Okay, and almost all the poor people in a rural area, what is the main job for them? What is the main occupation for them? That is farming. Okay, now rapid growth in population, at the same time we don't have employment. This results in what now? We don't have employment. We don't have poverty. It results in poverty. And at the same time, per head availability of land, in the sense, one person, what land is available for one person. Okay, that was very less. It declined very, what you say, I told redistribution of land, right? So when we redistributed land, the big land became small, small, like 10 acres of land. If it is distributed among 10 people, what will happen? One person will get only 1 acre. Again, you know that according to our hereditary rule, that 1 acre will be divided among the children. So again started becoming very small. So per head availability, it became very low in our country. So when the land is becoming very small, the income also will be very less. So this is another problem you can see related to poverty. Small land holdings and whatever land per head land availability, that also was very less. Okay. So this is heavy pressure of population. Population pressure is very high on the land and even on the resources. Okay. So Elvina, can you just read it out, this one?
Heavy pressure of population. Pressure of population is more pronounced in rural areas. A large section of rural poor is engaged in agriculture sector.
Yeah, they are
Rapid
engaged in agriculture sector. Then
The rapid growth in population and lack of alternative employment opportunities imply that the per head availability
availability.
for
Yes.
land cultivation has steadily declined, leading to fragmentation of
Fragmentation of land holdings. That means fragmentation in the sense land holdings are becoming smaller now. So when the land holdings are smaller, income from the land holdings also will be less. That is not sufficient to support the family, or that is not sufficient for a family to live. So this is a second point related to heavy pressure of population. Population pressure they are talking about, or on the land or on the resources here. Okay. Next one is a chronic unemployment and underemployment. This is another reason you can see related to the poverty. India is a country, you know how is that unemployment is very, very high. Okay. Now what do you mean by when we say poverty? It is an expression of unemployment. That means if you are unemployed, you don't have money to support the family. That leads to poverty. Okay. So here this is one important reason why the people are poor in our country. Now in 2011-12, number of unemployed people, if you see, that is about 2.45 crore. It has further increased to 4.35 crore in March 2016. Okay, the urban poor are unemployed. Urban poor, if you see, they are unemployed, otherwise they are intermittently unemployed. What do you mean by intermittently unemployed? Intermittent means what?
Sometimes they are employed. And
Yeah,
sometimes
sometimes they are employed, sometimes they have work. It is like, or they don't have work. So it's maybe one day they have work, another day they don't have work. Like that it will be. So especially if you talk about the casual laborers, their life is like that. They may have one day work, another day they may not have work. So like this, if you see, poverty is an expression of unemployment, or it is a reflection of unemployment. Those people who are not having employment, they are poor people. Number of unemployed person in India, how much it was in 2011-12? How many people were there in the unemployed category? 2.45 crore. What happened in 2016, whether it is reduced or increased? It is increased. It is increased to how much? 4.35 crore. Okay. Now poverty is related to the nature of employment, whether it is underemployment, or whether it is seasonal employment, or whether it is disguised unemployment. In all these areas, if you see, poverty is closely related. If a person is properly employed, then only he is able to get some income. Otherwise what will happen? People will enter in indebtedness. Indebtedness in the sense, when they don't have money, they borrow from money lenders and they are not able to pay back it, then they are caught in that trap. We call it as debt trap, and they are in the trap. They are not able to come out of that particular trap here. So these are the this is another important point related to poverty. Okay, now we will have that seminar. Remaining points I will discuss later. Okay? Yes. You can share the screen and start. Who is the first one?
Ma'am, Aditya.
Aditya. Okay, yeah, she was doing, yeah. After that, Atul, right?
No, ma'am. Anila Mohanan.
Anila. Okay, fine. Yes. You can start.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
So let's continue with liberalization.
Yes. Financial one, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So let me give you a brief introduction as we have continued.
Yes.
Liberalization, withdrawal of all the control and restrictions imposed on the economy by the government. So we have completed that, and there is various reforms, that is in industrial sector, financial sector, trade policy and foreign exchange and tax reforms. Deregulation of industrial sector, delicensing, dereservation,
Anju.
freedom to import capital goods, withdrawal of price restrictions, and we had reached in financial sector reforms. Liberalization had made a lot of changes in the field of banking. Earlier, before liberalization, banks, all the works in the banks were done manually, and after that, it has been made into computerized banking system. A lot of technologies had came up. So first point is change in the role of RBI. RBI's role has been changed from a regulator to a facilitator, and now the banks are given rights to take independent decisions. Earlier, when they had to take a decision, they had to get permission from RBI, or when they do anything, they have to get permission from RBI. Then establishment of private banks. When private banks came up, a lot of technologies was being introduced in the field of banking, and this have been increased the standards of the bank in India. Increasing in the limit of foreign investment. Foreign direct investment in the banking sector has been increased into 74%. Is in the expansion process. Banks are being given freedom to start new branches of their bank without the permission of RBI. They had been given permission to open up new branches as their wish, and to increase their facilities also. Foreign institutional investors, they can invest in certain investment like mutual funds, pension funds, etc. So liberalization has made increased the standards of the banks in India. So these are the changes which took place after liberalization in the field of banking. And next is tax reforms. So income tax have been reduced. This was done to discourage the tax evasion. Tax evasion means non-payment of tax. So income tax has been reduced because a lot of people was not paying taxes. So when they had an idea that when they reduce the tax, people would pay their taxes. Corporation tax has been reduced to encourage the investment. So corporation tax has also been reduced. And next is goods and service tax, GST. GST was introduced to replace a large number of indirect taxes. All the indirect taxes was made into a single tax is known as GST. And when this GST has come, this tax structure has been made very simple, just one tax for one nation. And next reform is foreign exchange reforms, devaluation of Indian currency or devaluation of rupee. rupee has been devaluated. This was done to encourage the exports and discourage the imports. So this devaluation means decreasing or lowering the value of currency in terms of foreign exchange. So this has been done to encourage or to increase the export and decrease the imports. Market determination of exchange rates. So it has been changed from fixed exchange rates into flexible exchange rate system, and now the market forces are allowed to determine the exchange rates. And the last reform is trade and investment policy reforms. So removal of quantitative restrictions. All the quantity restrictions like quotas has been removed. And now there is no quotas on imports and exports. Quotas means it specify the quantity of imports or exports. Import licensing has been abolished except for dangerous and harmful goods. Import licensing earlier, in order to import goods into India, it was a difficult task. It was not so easy to import goods. So now you require license for it, but now it's easy to import goods except dangerous and harmful goods. You require license for it. Reduction in tariff rates. Import duties were reduced. Export duties have been abolished for most of the goods. This will bring more foreign exchange. Reduction in tariff rates. Tariffs means it's a tax on imports. So when you reduce, more goods flows into India. The next topic is the main objective of liberalization policies. Those are to increase the competition among the domestic industries, to increase the foreign capital formation and technology, to decrease the debt burden of a country, to encourage exports and imports of goods and services, to expand the size of the market. So these are the main objectives or the main aim of liberalization policy. Then next, let's see tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. Tariff barriers. Custom duties can be used as a trade barrier. Heavy imports can discourage imports. Heavy import duties can discourage the import, and heavy export duties can reduce exports. So country uses tariff barriers to protect their domestic producers and domestic consumers. This is done to protect the domestic producers and domestic consumers. So, and also to increase the revenue of the state. Tariffs are the tax on imports. Non-tariff barriers. It means any barriers other than tariff barriers. They are also called as quantitative restrictions. The country impose import quotas and export quotas if it do not affect the price imported goods. And next, let's see about GST. GST is a goods and service tax. It is imposed on the supply of goods and services. It is one tax in place of all the taxes. It is a uniform tax across all states of a country. GST is a single domestic indirect tax for the entire country. So GST, it has the Goods and Service Tax Act was passed in the Parliament on 29th March 2017, and it came to effect in 1st July 2017. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. I felt the topic is too much for her. I felt you could have divided a little bit, given a little bit to others also. Okay, it was very wide, I felt. Okay, anyway, it was good. I felt a little more explanation from your side you could have given, but I know the topic was very high, that's why. Okay, it's all good. Very good. Next. Who else? Aparna, who is the next one you told?
Ma'am, Anila.
Anila, okay. Anila, are you ready? Where are you? Anila, any problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then start first. Yes.
Good afternoon. Today I'll be presenting a seminar on the topic globalization. First, we'll know about the meaning of globalization. Globalization means integration of the economy of the country with the world economy. In simple words, it is a process by which people and goods move easily across borders. Globalization encourages foreign trade and private and institutional foreign investment. Foreign trade is the exchange of capital, goods, and services across between countries. And private and institutional foreign investment is an investment made by a private entity in a foreign country. Next, we'll know about the aim of globalization. So, the main aim of globalization is to transform the world towards greater independence and integration. Globalization attempts to establish links in such a way that the happening in India can be in made by events happening miles away. It's turning the world into one whole of creating a borderless world. This is one of the important outcomes of the globalization process, which is outsourcing. Outsourcing is a practice in which companies hire regular services from external sources, mostly from other countries, like legal services, computer services, advertisement services, data entry, accounting services, etc., are outsourced by the companies of developed countries. The growth of information technology helped in the growth of outsourcing. Information that is because information technology opened up new possibilities of economic and social transformation, and many of the services such as voice-based business processes popularly known as BPO or call centers. The full form of BPO is business process outsourcing, record keeping, accountancy, banking services, music recording, film editing, transcription, clinical advice, or even teaching are being outsourced by companies in developed countries to India. So, next we'll learn about what are the advantages of outsourcing. So, the first advantage is that it provides employment opportunities to a large number of educated people. Because of the initial success of call centers, many there were a sudden emergence of small scale and medium scale BPO companies. So people got jobs, they were employed. In that way, it provided employment opportunities. It enables the next point is it enables India to earn a lot of foreign exchange. Foreign exchange is conversion of one country's currency into another. The third point is it improves the GDP of the country of our country. Economic growth increases. GDP is a total it's the total value of finished goods and services produced in a specific time period. Uh, Economic growth rate it measures a change in nation's GDP. So next is, why is India a favorite outsourcing destination? Wages are low in India, so companies can reduce their cost of production because of cheap labor. Can get Companies can reduce their cost of production. India has a lot of skilled manpower. India is highly educated and they are able to acquire necessary skills from wide range of training programs. Indians are fluent in English language. Because of communication is a problem, getting the work done correctly can be a complicated process. So that's it for today. Thank you.
My God, what is this? Yeah, we all can see
Ma'am,
now.
you can see this.
Yes, yes, yes.
Privatization. It refers to giving greater role to private sector, thereby reducing the role of public sector. In other words, it means shedding of the ownership or management of a government. Right. There are certain rules for privatization, like many of the places become state units, they become social burden, industrial efficiency and productivity become low. The government want to raise money for social welfare programs. People are not able to get quality goods and services which government owned enterprises. Objectives of privatization: improving financial conditions of the government, raising funds through discount, reducing the workload of public sector, increasing the efficiency of government undertakings, making a way for foreign direct investment, providing better goods and services to consumers, bringing healthy competition with an economy. Benefits of privatization: efficiency and productivity of industry will improve. Government get enough money for social welfare programs through privatization. Industrial development become faster. The private enterprises earn profit and invest the profit. Consumers are able to get good quality and services. Then there are some different methods of privatization. Strategy and minority sale. Strategic refers to sale of 51% or more of the shares of public sector undertakings to private sector. In this, ownership and management transfer to the private sector. Next, minority sale refers to the sale of less than 49% of shares of equities to the private sector. In this, ownership and management will remain with the government.
Okay, Anju, you could have a bit explained. Hmm? See, if you practice, it will be easy for you, okay? Because if you are reading out, that is different. And just to say one or two sentence about it. If you're getting a good practice now, so afterwards there will be a lot of platform where you have to speak. So just those whoever is doing one sentence, if you can explain, that will be good about it. Okay. Next, Atul. He's waiting for his chance. No, no, let him finish. No, who is coming next?
Ma'am, Femina.
No, I cannot. Atul, you have to be present on next day, okay? So I have a class now after 2:50.
Yes, ma'am, I'll be present.
Okay, okay then. Bye all. Thank you. Bye everyone. Okay.